And so today we're going to continue moving through this packet. So the video that's on Classroom ends on page 308, right after part 2. We talked about clues to theme. And then the last thing we talked about was inferencing, which is part of active reading. That's why I like active reading, because you're practicing making inferences all the time. Inferring is not just an educated guess. I don't like that definition because you can't make an inference if you don't have reading skills. So it's a little bit more than an educated guess. I like to say educated guess using your active reading, because you don't just guess. All right, you actually, when you make inferences, that's the highest level of thinking, and I don't think that it's a guess too much. So clues to theme. Remember, we watched a couple of videos on Tuesday about theme. You've already learned about theme in English class, but I don't think it's stuck, so I want to make sure that we understand theme. Theme basically is a lesson that they want you to learn about life, and some ways that you can figure out what the theme of the story is you can look at the title, and we've done that all year in reading class. Logan, do you need a packet? Do you need a packet? Okay, if you don't have a packet, come get one. I didn't get, you know what, I probably did not. So I don't have paper copies. I thought I gave it. This is on Classroom. You know what? We do not have much. I'll print more. If you don't have a packet, just pay attention, and then I'll get you the packet during homeroom, and then you can watch the video again and do your notes, okay? I apologize. This week's been a blur, so. All right, so in order to find theme, one way we can do that is by looking at the title of the book or the story. The title may hint at a theme by highlighting an important idea, setting, image, or character. So yesterday you were to listen to some songs for the exit ticket, and the one song was called Happy. Well, obviously the theme to that song is just be happy and let things roll off your back. We could get the theme from the title of that song. To what in the story does the title refer? What ideas does the title emphasize? Another way you can figure out theme is plot and conflict. A story's plot often focuses on a conflict that is important to the theme. Now remember, plot, what's plot? We've been doing this all year too. Plot, what is it? In your own words, what is it? Go ahead, Cohen. Right, okay. Plot basically is just the events of a story. Okay, it's everything that builds a story. And then you have that plot diagram. What conflicts do the characters face? How are the conflicts resolved? And remember, we have certain types of conflicts. We have man versus what? Give me a type of conflict. Man versus nature. What's another one? Go ahead. Self. What's another type of conflict? Go ahead. Yep. And then the last one. Man versus. This is a big one in your world today. Society. Very good. Right. And so those are the types of conflicts that people have in stories. And remember, reading class, you guys take all this stuff and you need to apply it to your life. So it's not just for reading stories. Don't you have conflicts sometimes in nature? Absolutely. The weather, right? The other day coming to school, the roads were terrible. That was a conflict for people driving, whether or not, should we go fast? Should we go slow? Should we slam on the brakes? Man versus self. I know that you guys, probably being teenagers, you're probably always struggling with yourself, fighting, with yourself about how you look, right? How you dress, how you feel. And obviously man versus man, you have conflicts between another person. And this one here, like I said, that's a big one in today's world. Society's a little bit crazy. Logan. Well, can you do it after we get done, after I get done instructing? That way you can pay attention. Yeah. Characters and actions. So remember, these are clues that you guys can use to help you figure out theme. Characters can reflect a theme through their actions, thoughts, and words. Now, in 8th grade, we do a little bit more on indirect characterization, but that's indirect characterization right there. We've watched in here too the Frozen video with reels. Remember, we need to analyze characters through their relationships, through their emotions, through their actions, through their looks, and through their speech. What do the main characters do and say? How do the characters deal with the conflicts? And what lessons do the characters learn? Remember, theme is basically what lessons can we learn from the story. So basically, what are the lessons the characters learn from the story? Another clue to finding out themes, setting and images. The setting and images an author creates can suggest a theme. Ask, what aspects of the setting does the author emphasize? What images stand out as especially memorable? What conflicts does the setting create? So those are all ways that you can figure out theme when you are reading. So here's a story. They want us to analyze the literature. As you read this folktale, now remember I had you watch a video about folktales earlier in the week. Folktales usually have morals or lessons in the story. Use the clues you just learned about to help you uncover the theme. The close read questions will guide you. Now, if you guys remember, this is a blank story, but if you would turn it in, I don't want anything blank, so you need to mark it up, right? You need to actively read it. Remember what these stand for. Ask questions, make connections, track down your answers, make an inference, and visualize. Those are all reading skills. If you do that, then all these questions on the side most likely will be answered. Okay. Gombe and the Wild Ducks, Japanese folktale retold by Yoshiko Uchida. Once long ago, in a small village in Japan, so I know that that's the setting, the story takes place in Japan, there lived a man whose name was Gombe. So this is the main character. He lived very close to a wooded marsh where wild ducks came each winter to play in the water for many long hours. Even when the wind was cold and the marsh waters were frozen, the ducks came in great clusters. So I'm going to underline cold and frozen because it's winter time now. That's a connection I'm making to myself. So that is text to self. So I'm going to remember that they're talking about kind of like what's going on outside right now. For they liked Gombe's marsh, and they often stayed to sleep on the ice. Just as his father had done before him, Gombe made his living by trapping the wild ducks with simple loops of rope. All right, so he's a trapper. And he's trapping the ducks. So I'm wondering where this story is going to go. What kind of lesson it's going to teach me from reading about somebody who traps ducks. When a duck stepped into a loop, Gombe simply pulled the rope tight and the duck was caught. And like his father before him, Gombe never trapped more than one duck a day. So these actions here, so here I am, I'm analyzing. This is indirect. This tells me that he is responsible because he's not taking more than he needs, because if he would trap as many ducks as he could, what would happen to the population of the ducks there? Right, it would go down. They wouldn't be there. And so he sells these. That must be how he makes his living. So he knows if he's greedy, eventually he's going to basically kill his business because those ducks won't come back. So maybe that's the lesson. But do you see what active reading's doing? I'm thinking about this, and I'm already thinking of a lesson here, And maybe that is the theme of the story. I don't know. I haven't finished it yet. But let's read the close read over here. Which character does the title suggest is important to watch? Obviously, who? Gunbei, right. Because he's in the title. So he must be the main character. As you read, look for details that show what this character is like and how he changes. Okay, I've already done that because I know that my reading teacher is telling me, mark it up, do the active reading. When I look at a person, I use indirect characterization. And I know that indirect characterization, when I judge somebody, I need to look at their relationships. I need to look at their emotions. I want to look at their actions, their looks, and their speech. This is how I make a judgment about a character. Because I don't want to just look at their actions or just listen to their speech, because people can say things they don't mean, right? So I need to take, when I am judging a character, I need to take all these things together. Now, this isn't the kind of judge that you're thinking of. This isn't like judging somebody in a negative way. This is making a good decision about, should you listen to this person? Should you hang out with this person? What kind of character does this person have? That's what I mean when I'm saying judge. The connotation of this is not negative. After all, the poor creatures come to the marsh never suspecting that they will be caught. Gonbei's father had said, it would be too cruel to trap more than one at a time. Okay, so yeah, so I'm thinking that my theme, what I think, is correct. So since I know that I'm studying theme and I know that they'll probably always ask me, I'm going to put down what I think the theme is. I'm going to say, don't take more than you need. Because remember, theme is broad, it's not specific. And so for all the years that Gonbei trapped, he never caught more than one duck a day. One cold winter morning, however, this word however tells me, is he going to catch more than one? What's going to happen? Gonbei woke up with a dreary ache in his bones. I know that dreary means like, I think of the weather. If something's dreary, it's kind of like sad, depressed. Like rain is dreary. It's just not a happy feeling. This gives me a negative feeling connotation. I'm growing too old to work so hard, and there is no reason to continue as my father did for so many years, he said to himself. Oh no. If I caught 100 ducks all at once, I could loaf for 99 days without working at all. Loaf means to be lazy, to do nothing. And I know that being lazy, nothing good comes from being lazy. So I don't think this story is going to end well, because people who work hard, things work out for the best. Gonbei wondered why he hadn't done this sooner. It is a brilliant idea, he thought. The very next morning he hurried out to the marsh and discovered that its waters were frozen. Very good, a fine day for trapping, he murmured, and quickly he laid 100 traps on the icy surface. Not good. I don't think that's good at all. The sun had not yet come up, and the sky was full of dark clouds. Gonbei knelt behind a tree and clutched the ends of the 100 rope traps as he shivered and waited for the ducks to come. Now you can see over number 2, they ask, what impression do you have of Gonbei? Well, with my active reading, I'm doing what my teacher told me to do, I've already answered that question. That's why it's so important for you guys to do the active reading, because you're going to answer the questions that they want you to know. Plus, that's what good readers do. Slowly, slowly the sky grew lighter, and Gonbei could see some ducks flying toward his marsh. He held his breath and watched eagerly as they swooped down onto the ice. They did not see his traps at all, and gabbled noisily as they searched for food. One by one, as the ducks stepped into his trap, Gonbei tightened his hold on the ropes. I'm feeling kind of sad. 1, 2, 3, he counted, and in no time at all he had 99 ducks in his trap. The day had not even dawned, and already his work was done for the next 99 days. Gombe grinned at his cleverness and thought of the days and weeks ahead during which he could loaf. One more, he said patiently, just one more duck and I will have 100. The last duck, however, was the hardest of all to catch. I wonder why. Because he has less traps? Could be. Gombe waited and waited, but still there was no duck in his last trap. Soon the sky grew bright, for the sun had appeared at the rim of the wooded hills, and suddenly a shaft of light scattered a rainbow of sparkling colors over the ice. The startled ducks uttered a shrill cry, and almost as one they fluttered up into the air, each trailing a length of rope from its legs. Gombe was startled by their sudden flight. He didn't let go of the ropes he held in his hands. Before he could even call for help, he found himself swooshed up into the cold winter sky as the 99 wild ducks soared upward, pulling him along at the end of their traps. Uh-oh. I wonder, is he going to die? Soon one hand began to slip, a little at first, and then a little more. He was losing his grip on the ropes. Slowly, Gombe felt the ropes slide from his numb fingers, and finally, he was unable to hold on any longer. He closed his eyes tight and murmured a quick prayer as he plummeted pell-mell down to earth. The wild ducks, not knowing what had happened, flew on, trailing the ropes behind like ribbons in the sky. As Gumby tumbled toward the ground, however, a very strange thing began to take place. Huh. First he sprouted a bill, and then feathers and wings, and then a tail and webbed feet. By the time he was almost down to earth, he looked just like the creatures he had been trying to trap. Gombe wondered if he were having a bad dream. But no, he was flying and flapping his wings, and when he tried to call out, the only sound that came from him was the call of the wild duck. Now remember, this is a folk tale. This is not true. Folk tales are told through stories to teach lessons to people. He had indeed become a wild duck himself. Gombe fluttered about frantically, trying to think and feel like a duck instead of a man. At last he decided there's only one thing to do. If I am to be a wild duck, I must live like one, he thought, and he headed slowly toward the waters of a marsh he saw glistening in the sun. He was so hungry, he simply had to find something to eat, for he had not even had breakfast yet. He swooped down to the marsh and looked about hungrily. But as he waddled about thinking only of his empty stomach, he suddenly felt a tug at his leg. Okay, so maybe the theme, what goes around comes around, which means what? Have you ever heard that? Which means if you treat people poorly, eventually you're going to get what's due. Karma. He pulled and pulled, but he could not get away. Then he looked down, and there, wound around his leg, was the very same kind of rope trap that he set each day for the wild ducks of his marsh. It wasn't harming anything. All I wanted was some food, he cried, but the man who had set the trap could not understand what Gombe was trying to say. He had been trapped like a wild animal, and soon he would be plucked and eaten. Oh, me, Gombe wailed. Now I know how terrible it is for even one wild duck to be trapped, and only this morning I was trying to trap 100 poor birds. I am a wicked and greedy man, he thought, and I deserve to be punished for being so cruel. As Gombe wept, the tears trickled down his body and touched the rope that wound tightly about his leg. The moment they did, a wonderful thing happened. The rope was so secure suddenly fell apart, and Gombe was no longer caught in the trap. I'm free, Gombe shouted, and this time he wept tears of joy. How good it is to be free and alive! How grateful I am to have another chance. As the tears rolled down his face and then his body, another strange and marvelous thing happened. First, his feathers began to disappear, and then his bill, and then his tail and his webbed feet. Finally, he was no longer a duck, but had become a human being once more. Never again will I ever trap another living thing, Gumby vowed when he reached home safely. Then he went to his cupboard and threw out all his rope traps and burned them into ash. From this moment on I shall become a farmer, he said. I will till the soil and grow rice and wheat and food for all the living creatures of the land. And Gumby did exactly that for the rest of his days. As for the wild ducks, they came in ever increasing numbers, for now they found grain and feed instead of traps laid upon the ice, and they knew that in the sheltered waters of Gumby's marsh they would always be safe. So let's look over here. Why does he decide to become a farmer after he is magically freed? Good. Number 7, think about the lesson that Gumby has learned. Choose a topic shown and write a statement that expresses a theme of the story. So this should be pretty easy because I've modeled to you what critical thinkers do and what I hope that you do when you read. So what do you think the theme is? Freedom, treatment of others, understanding others' problems. Which one? I think all three of those, right? I mean, don't you think? And they want us to write a topic. We are running out of time though. But I think if you look back at the themes that we discussed, we're pretty much on target, aren't we? And so remember, themes, you may not have the exact same wording as what they have on the test. As long as it is similar to the theme they have, then you should pick that theme. So that was the packet discussing theme a little bit more. I am going to have a quiz or a test on theme. It'll be posted tomorrow. I'm going to try and find one like have a story, have you read the story, and then have you choose the theme of the story if I can, or like little stories like this. I want you to practice pulling out the theme. So look for the quiz tomorrow. I haven't found it yet. I don't know if I'll have to make it up, but there will be a quiz. Tomorrow is Friday already, so don't forget 80 minutes of reading this week. And if you owe any exit tickets, get those turned in.